What's up, y'all? I'm Javar, and this is DUSAFARMS. In this video, I'm going to be helping you new growers out there possibly wrap your heads around the subject of flushing and whether you should be doing it or not doing it. If you enjoy the video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. I do appreciate that. And also comment down, anything that could be useful and helpful to those other viewers watching it, or if you have any questions, maybe somebody else may be able to help you out. Now, when we're talking about flushing, if you have at least got through one grow or you started growing and you've neared that end, you've most likely heard of the term flushing. But for those that do not know what flushing is, I'll quickly explain. So flushing is pretty much the process of taking the nutrients within your soil or whatever media you're using, your substrate, and you're flushing them out without nutrients. So the new water that you're putting in there does not contain any nutrients whatsoever, and you're not having any, whatever your ppm or EC, whether that be tap water or RO water, whatever source you're using for your water and running through your system, well, whatever ppm, your EC, pH, all that, you're pretty much flushing your media with that water until you're getting a runoff of the same thing of what you're putting in. So say my tap water is at 127 and I'm giving that to my plants, just that alone, I'm flushing out the runoff, it comes out at 900, then it slowly just keeps going down and down all the way until maybe 127, whatever I said it at the beginning. But it may not get all the way there, it may get pretty close, may get under 200, and that'll be cool with me. I know for sure that the nutrients within my media is at least somewhat almost gone, like 90+% gone, so that's cool. That's pretty much the term of flushing. Now, I'm not saying that is the best form to do flushing. I'm just saying what flushing is for those that do not know. Now, as far as whether you should be doing it or not doing it, I know as a new grower it's hard. You've heard so many people, if you've been on some sort of social media, just talk to other growers, everybody has their own way of doing it, not just flushing it. The whole other few months and weeks that you're doing this, there's different ways to do all that, from the very moment you get that seed all the way into the moment you smoke it. There is a different process from here to here on every subject in between. It doesn't matter if you're talking about the seed, the veg, flower, consumption, because consumption alone is just so many different ways to consume it. So there's a preference and there's so many different ways to do everything. And just because you prefer to do some way doesn't mean it's the right way or it's the best way. It's maybe be the best way for you, but it's not for everyone else. So you need to understand. And same thing with the people that are taking advice. You need to understand that just because something works for someone else doesn't mean it's going to work for you. But as a beginner grower, when taking in all this knowledge, know that not everything is for everyone, and people are just telling you what they use, and they should be using some sort of etiquette. And but I know not a lot of people do. They just kind of tell you their way is the way, and that's the only way you should be doing it. Just stay open-minded throughout the entire process, and know that things do change over time, and more research and science comes out, and we learn something new every day, whether that be through, like I said, science or experience. Now, flushing, I have flushed in the past. When I first started out, I'm pretty sure we all kind of done it. The most common thing that I heard at the time was flushing for those last 2 weeks, maybe weeks. Some people did 3 weeks, but I was familiar with that. That's what I did immediately. And at the time, I was using something with dyes in it. I was using the General Hydroponics, the Flora Trio. And all I did was took my plants, I was using soil, took the fabric pots, put them in the bathtub, ran my tap water. It had dyes in it, so there was some colors, like a pinkish, color to it. I would flush the media with the tap water until I was getting a runoff, because I didn't really, think to check the actual runoff with like some sort of pin. I had a pH pin at the time. I don't think I had any sort of ppm pin at the time, just the pH. So I was pretty much flushing it until I would visually see that, hey, there's no more color. It's coming out clear, like what I'm putting in is clear. So I know we're flushed, I know we're good. Then eventually, I got the EC ppm meters, and then I was able to actually check the runoff and see, like, okay, it's near what I'm putting in, so I know that it's flushed. And when it comes to flushing it, I mean, the overall idea, it does make sense. Well, at least to me, I don't know numerous other people, it makes sense no matter what. You have things there in the media. You don't want your plants absorbing any more of that. You want them to, finish off and just, absorb everything and the leaves and all that. And you want it to just be done and over with, and you want all that gone. So it makes sense. But then also it makes sense, like what a lot of people say on the other end is that, well, why would you give your plants something that you don't want, to consume at the end? Because what you're feeding, that's the same thing with like livestock and stuff like that. People feeding, grass-fed beef, all these different things, right? So you hear that they're talking about what the product that you're going to be consuming is consuming. So now it makes sense, because you're like, man, yeah, why would I give the plant this if I don't want to, take that at the end? And it totally makes sense all the way from, people say from the media you use to the nutrients you use, whether that be organic, synthetic, the different types of, bottles and stuff like that. It all makes a difference, right? It would make sense because it is different. But at the end of the day, also, I know there's a lot of different things going on here, but also it said that, when you think about it, the plant only, it said that the plant only sees the nutrient. It uptakes the nutrient, kind of just like us. So we got proteins, fats, carbs, stuff like that make up our calories in our food. Then we got all our other macronutrients. Same thing with the plants when it comes to like the NPK, and then you got all the other macros from like your iron, potassium, magnesium, all those, the immobile, mobile nutrients. So it makes sense, that the plant is only like, it's like, I don't know, this is a bottle. I just know I'm getting this much nitrogen or this much, phosphate or whatever. That makes sense as well. And I'm here for all of it. It all, it all makes sense. That's the problem. And that's where our head, we get spun around and we don't know. So what does it come down to? In my perspective, it comes down to pretty much experience and what you like to do. Now, this is what I recommend, and this is what has worked for me. Like I told you, I started off in soil. I started flushing. Then when I switched to DWC, I got, I was looking up. I found out, like, you don't need to flush because the nutrients are already readily available in the water. And the moment you make any change, it's immediate. There's nothing left behind. I could, the flushing in there is quite simple as compared to soil. I have to keep running something through it. With DWC, you just do a bucket change, a new res. It's different, completely different environment. It takes no time at all other than like the prep. So when I started doing DWC, I've seen people say you just need a flush with just plain water. You change out the res the last 2-3 days since it's such an immediate effect. And I was like, you know what, that makes sense. And then with the DWC, with me doing that the 2-3 days, I wasn't getting that fade. I knew that was like the cool part about, the flushing and stuff like that. You would get that nice fade, and your plants are, absorbing everything left, and they're dying out, and it's beautiful. It's looking like fall. Now, in the past, when I did soil and I flushed with plain tap water, I was getting some, I was getting a fade, but I was getting like the plants were getting crispy, and they just looked more like, not like, peacefully dying. They weren't going in peace. They were going like discomfort, pain, agony. They didn't always have sometimes, sometimes there would be a few and they would look good, but there was definitely times where they just looked crispy and they're like, I probably shouldn't have flushed, But then fast forward back to the DWC, I started doing that the 2-3 days. It made sense. I would start to kind of get a fade, but then I started doing it longer than the 2 or 3 days, maybe a week. And same thing, I would get some crispiness, start seeing some deficiencies. That's what it looked like when I started doing the flushing. So then I stopped flushing it completely in DWC. I would just immediately chop them. Plants wouldn't really get a fade, but I would just chop them. Once the trichomes and everything, they would look good. I would chop them down. And then finally I decided, like, hey, let me, try something new. Let me gradually bring it down. At the 2-week mark, I'll start like slowly bringing it down to wherever they're at. Maybe I'm at 1,000 ppm, 3.0 EC, whatever that translates to. Might be a little off, but 2.5 probably. So I would just gradually go down, over the course of like those last 2 weeks, and just kind of taper it off. And that I started to get a lot better of a fade. I didn't see, it was actual fade, nice, the fall looking leaves. I didn't see any crispiness. The plants don't look like they were dying. They look like they went in peace. So I started doing that. And then I started seeing to Athena. I run Athena Nutrients now, and that they have a podcast, and they talk about subjects like this, and they break it down more in like a scientific way. And I saw that, and they talked about the tapering, and they talked about the effects of flushing and how overall you can, pretty much the plants, the nitrogen. A lot of people, you come to find out that plants don't really need too much nitrogen after the stretch. They need the nitrogen, and the plants start to absorb that from the rest of the leaves. They start to absorb that at the end. You want to get rid of and use all that nitrogen up, which is going to translate to a better smoke and just a better finish overall. So okay, I was like, okay, that makes sense. I already heard of the term, cutting the nitrogen at the end, but now it made more sense to why the reasons the plants were like starting to like, go, starting to like fade and stuff like that. It started making sense to what was going on in the process. Now there was a a lot more I can explain on that entire process of what's happening right there in a smarter way. But in simple terms, your plants are just using what's left during that moment where there's nothing ready available. It's like, hey, well, same thing that happens with the body. If we start starving ourselves, well, we're going to kind of do some sort of fade where we'll drop a bunch of weight because our bodies is now starting to cannibalize and eat itself to survive and get those nutrients it needs to keep going. And, just we're not going to go in peace, but so that's the same thing kind of what the plant's doing, is it's consuming itself and get rid of all those things and like the nutrients that are left behind. There's also been a lot of other bigger names, like I said, Athena, they were talking about not flushing, but Blueprint is known for producing great grade A quality out in California. A lot of people are familiar with Blueprint, but they stated that, hey, they don't flush at all. I think they just said they just keep going to the end, and then they started trying out tapering and stuff like that. Usually they just go straight into the end. So then you see more people come up about not flushing it. It makes you realize, like, do I need a flush? Do I not need a flush? And honestly, ever since I switched to DWC, that was kind of a game changer for me. It made me get accustomed to not flushing it and then experimenting with the things like tapering. And ever since then, that's exactly what I've been doing since switching to cocoa. And now I just taper my plants down at the last 2 weeks. I just gradually bring it down, and I don't even bring it all the way down to like a flush at the end. I have tried that as well. When I bring it down in like the last 2 days, I actually flush. I tried that and it turned out great because they weren't sitting there and miserable. But then I just nixed out the last 2 days, and I kind of just bring it down to them at the very end. I think the last week I'm feeding at like a 400 ppm. I don't really know what that translates in EC, but yeah, that's what I'm feeding to at the very end. So I kind of just taper it down, and to me, and overall, that has given me a better result. I've had multiple people try it out. I've tried it different ways multiple times and have people tried it without them knowing whether it was flush, because that used to be the topic. A lot of people was like, hey, white ash equals it was flushed properly, but little did they know you can completely flush it no matter which way you want it, and then go ruin everything in the dry and cure. So I would have people, that were accustomed to flushing, and I would let them try my product, and they would say, oh, it's actually better than this last batch or whatever. So it does, from my perspective, it does give you a better result with the tapering down. But like I said, some people are stuck in their way. Some people are so accustomed to doing, it one way. And what I will say, like I've already said, stay open-minded, try it different ways. As a new grower, don't stress your out about this little subject right here, flushing it. You're not going to ruin your crop. It may change the quality of it. It could definitely change the quality of it drastically. But at the same time, you just grew that, it's going to come out amazing. It's fresh flower. You're going to get through that dry and cure. You're going to try this flower, and it's going to be amazing because you grew it. Yes, you're going to be, thinking about it. You're going to be like, hey, I could have did this better. I could have did that better. That's how it is as a grower. You're always going to be thinking about what you could have did better back in like weeks 2, 3, 4, whatever. That's just going to be a thing. But what I will say is it's going to get you high. You're going to love it. So don't stress yourself out about this subject of flushing it. Try different things. This first run, try the 2 weeks of flushing. But I will say is try tapering. But that's just my personal experience, and that's what I prefer. But you can also try the just running all the way through. Try all these different things. If you got multiple plants, if you got 3 different plants, what I will say is on one, flush it the last 2 weeks. On the second one, taper it down. And on the third one, from there, if they're all the same strain, it's going to make this is a lot better experiment for yourself. And then on the last one, do it the other way. And this is going to give you that initial little try. You're going to be able to see and be like, okay, I like this one the most out of all these different ones. Now, if they're already different phenos, well then, it's already going to be some difference there regardless. But if you're running all the same clone, as a new grower, some people may have run clone for the first one, but a lot of people run seeds. So you just try it out. You're going to have the different phenos or whatever, but just try those 3 different ways out, or whatever other ways you can think of, and then see what you like overall. If not, just try the next grow and every other grow like that. Try different medias, try all these different endless possibilities to see what you like. That's what it all comes down to, is what you like. Who cares what everybody else likes? But at the same time, your way is not for everybody, and my way is not for you. At the end of the day, let's all grow together. Let's all learn this together, and let's just all keep passing information along. Don't think anybody has to follow what you say to a T. Like I'm just giving some advice, and I'm trying to help those out there that may be, confused on the subject, not knowing what it is and not knowing what they should do. And this is going to calm down, relax. You're going to be good. You're going to have a great grow. and you're going to love it overall. But I appreciate you guys for tuning in. If you have any questions, make sure you drop those down in the comment section. And if you like to talk to other growers, join the Discord, because maybe you can join there. There's going to be a bunch of different opinions on the matter in there. But somebody's going to be able to help you. If not, you're going to be able to help somebody. And I appreciate you guys. Until next time, peace.